Good afternoon from the Rouge River Bridge in southwest Detroit. Dennis Neubacher. I'm a traffic reporter for WWJ from 5 to 10 in the morning. But we do this Facebook page every week on Friday, and we just love being a part of your day. And today we're doing it just after noon from a different location than we normally do, which is the studio. Diane Cross was so kind from the Michigan Department of Transportation to invite us here. She brought along Bill Erban as well. Diane's going to tell us a little bit about the I-75 project. Bill is the engineer, the chief engineer on this project, and he'll give us some of the details as well. We'll also find out some information about the Southfield closure this weekend and a little bit about the new flex route along US 23. So, Diane Cross, Bill Erban, thank you very much for having us up here, you guys. This is great. I'm feeling this bridge move, by the way, from the trucks as they go over. That's quite an amazing thing. Okay, this I-75 project, one side's done, the other one's just starting.
We did just shift the traffic from the northbound side of I-75, where you're driving on the older side of the roadway. Just north of Outer Drive, we removed the concrete median barrier walls and made all that safe so we could shift the traffic over. Drivers are now heading northbound on the new concrete, the new bridge that was just finished, technically the southbound side, but right now it is northbound traffic, and it will remain in this location until we're done with the project in late 18. Drivers are finding it a great driving surface. They're not having to deal with all the potholes and repairs that constantly go on this side where we're standing right now, and then work is going to be beginning on this side pretty quick once Bill starts getting that going.
You bet. And Bill Erban, are you happy with what you found the contractor did on that side of the freeway?
Yeah, I think the quality is good and the speed is good. So we're on schedule to finish in the fall of next year, about a year from now, maybe a little earlier. But things went very smoothly. It was a complicated job, the biggest bridge that any of us have ever worked on, so it required a concerted effort and everybody pulling together, and things worked out well, I believe.
I can imagine coordinating something like this must be difficult because you've got everything from communications, which you're involved in a lot, Diane, to you getting the contractors, everybody to sit down at the table together. Tell us a little bit give it a little bit of insight and what's that's like for you guys to coordinate this kind of a project.
Well, there's a detailed schedule, and everything is done at the appropriate time. And so you have the removal operation, and then you have the putback operation, and many steps in between with many trades. So everybody had to be on the same page and all pulling together. It was quite an effort.
And, I understand we have a question. Is that correct, George?
Yes.
Okay.
Someone is asking if there are any spots where you can see through.
Oh, what do you think? Are there any spots that you can see through this to below?
Well, the deck is 9 inches of concrete with a lot of steel reinforcement in it. So basically the top came off the steel reinforcement. Some concrete fell through. Right now everything's patched on this side of the bridge, but there probably at one point was a time you could see through, but there was never any danger because there's so much steel involved, and then it is just one spot in a whole sea of concrete.
Well, and I'm thinking, too, that there's a lot of weight. As you can feel this float, it's supposed to be flexible to be able to handle the weight of these vehicles, the large trucks going over. If it didn't do that, we would be in really big trouble, I'm assuming. This is an engineering feat, if you ask me.
Yeah, the steel down below, there are steel I-beams that range from 36 inches deep to 10 feet deep over the river, and they are designed to flex. And you feel that, and it needs to do that so they don't crack. The old bend but don't break philosophy.
Absolutely. Now, while we're talking, I want to get back to Diane here. If you drive this bridge, if you live downriver and you drive this bridge, you go into the city on I-75, or you miss going south on 75, write us. Let us know what you think. Any questions we can ask Diane and Bill, please. In fact, we have a question right now. What's the question?
Where's the worst pothole out here?
Oh, would you know that?
Go ahead and repeat.
Okay. What's the worst pothole? I always think when the reports we get, we're down by Dearborn Avenue. Am I correct? Or Dearborn Street? Does that sound right?
Yeah, we did do most of the patching work. We did patching on this job just to hold the northbound together so we could move traffic over onto the newly completed southbound side. So near Dearborn Street was where we had the largest effort for patching the existing bridge deck.
If you think about it, though, we do have so much truck traffic that comes up from, again, we're a major interstate. You're coming up into Michigan, heading up toward either the Ambassador Bridge or maybe toward Port Huron, even to the UP, one of our 3 international crossings. We have a lot of truck traffic heading there, and a lot of that traffic also locally exits at Dearborn. This is a very heavily industrial area, and just so between deliveries and equipment, that kind of thing. So a lot of folks who use that exit at Dearborn. So to me, it just seems kind of logical that that might be a spot that we have some extra wear and tear.
Off the top of your head, do you remember how many vehicles travel this bridge on a daily basis?
We have over 100,000 average daily traffic on the bridge, and 11.5% of them are trucks.
Okay. All right, so now we're into this next phase here. Take us through one more time the step-by-step process that you're doing here on the bridge, when you think it'll be done, what you're doing, and we'll go over from there into our next segment of our Facebook today.
Well, the first phase is demolition. So the Rouge Bridge gets sawed into pieces and hauled away. And then the structural steel is checked for safety, and whatever repairs need to be done are done. And then the concrete bridge deck is put back. Again, there's 2 layers of steel reinforcement, and then there's 9 inches of concrete that makes the deck. And then it's anchored to the steel beams down below with steel studs, which connect the concrete to the steel to make a concrete and steel sandwich.
Is this a dangerous project for the workers here? I'm thinking you've got to be very careful working on this bridge, the height above the ground that it is, and so on. I don't remember anybody being hurt here when that side was rebuilt. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking this could be dangerous work.
Well, whenever you work this high up in that amount of traffic, it is dangerous. As far as the height goes, workers wear harnesses, and we're tied off so that there's no danger of falling over. And as far as traffic goes, we have a concrete barrier that protects the workers from live traffic. And then as far as construction traffic, you just have to be on your toes and be aware. But everyone is cautious, and the contractor has a really good safety record. No one has been seriously hurt. A couple of back sprains, knees. I tripped one time and turned my ankle. So, I mean, that's about the most serious injury that you've had out here.
Well, all of us kind of sympathize, too. And I know, Diane, you've gotten a lot of calls about this. A lot of the times we think, gee, you should shut down another lane next to these construction workers because we're flying by. A lot of people are distracted driving now. They're not paying attention. And doggone it, somebody's going to get hit, and they do. People even picking garbage up alongside the road. These people are doing the litter for us, those volunteer groups. Some of them, every once in a while, get hurt, get killed. It's very bad.
People need to realize that these folks are standing next to live traffic. Again, drivers are going fast. It's distracted driving, and all they have protecting them are plastic orange barrels in a lot of situations and illuminated vests. But if drivers aren't paying attention, they're not even seeing any of those things. So unfortunately, it is very dangerous. So while it seems like most of us should assume we need to give more space and room to people working. We get a lot of complaints about people saying, why do you need all of those lanes? They need to realize we do need these concrete median barrier walls to protect somebody who's not paying attention, even if they are. Say there's a crash and suddenly they lose control of their vehicle. Or we had one time where a tire came off of somebody's vehicle and went flying over. The idea that those folks who are out there working, they're not watching traffic going by, they're trying to do their job. And you'd be surprised, we're going to have you back once we start tearing up this side. And when you see how many people are out here, and they are doing truly physical manual labor, saws, hammers, just the basic stuff you'd get at Home Depot. Lots of people doing that kind of work on this huge, big, expansive bridge, which is the biggest bridge in the state, right, Bill?
The biggest bridge in the state, yeah, 24 football fields of concrete here. So,
even beyond the Zilwaukee Bridge?
Square area of concrete, yes. It's bigger than Mackinac, and it's bigger than Zilwaukee. Mackinac has 2 steel grate. It's longer, but it has 2 steel grate lanes in the center. But concrete-wise, this is the largest in the state.
And you've got 8 lanes, basically, right? 4 each way, plus the shoulders and so on.
1.6 miles long.
1.6. Okay. The other thing is that there is incentive for people to slow down in construction zones. If I'm not mistaken, you bump up the fine and you bump up the penalty in prison if somebody gets killed. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's Andy's law, right. You see the signs, and you're absolutely right. So there's a focus on driving slow and keeping people safe and going home alive.
Another question. Brian Hayes is asking if northbound is on the southbound side. Is that ready?
That is northbound traffic on the southbound side right now.
That is northbound.
That just started yesterday. So the traffic shift was done yesterday between roughly 10 and 3. We moved that northbound traffic across the 3 lanes because we moved the concrete barrier. So we've got 3 lanes of northbound traffic on our new southbound bridge.
Any other follow-up information we should know about the I-75 project, where we're standing right now, looking at the beautiful downtown Detroit, by the way, in the distance, okay? What else?
We've got traffic shifted down near Goddard as well. So drivers coming north up from like Taylor, Woodhaven area, you're coming north as you approach Goddard Road. We switch you over onto the northbound side, which is also a new bridge, the new Goddard Bridge, while we are rebuilding the new southbound is where traffic is. We are rebuilding the new northbound, which is why I tried to
How do you keep it
say them both in the same sentence.
Well, I got another question for you. Go ahead.
Nicholas Rebel.
Yeah, hey, Nicholas Rebel, yes, sir.
He's asking if there's anything being done about the underlying structure of the bridge. Is it all the same, or is it being replaced?
Okay, Nicholas Rebel is wondering about the construction underneath, the base, and so on. I think you already addressed that, Bill, but repeat what you were talking about. What's necessary to be done? You bet. Well, yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Please keep joining us. Keep asking questions. Tell us where you're calling, you're watching. We really appreciate that. We love the fact that you're doing this. We're enjoying this.
The concrete bridge deck is really what is at the end of its useful life. The steel down below is in good shape. We're making some minor repairs to the steel as necessary, but basically putting back brand new concrete. Everything else is sound down below.
Okay. Hope we answered your question. If you have any other questions, let us know. Anything else we should add about this project, I-70?
People need to realize, part of what Bill's talking about is you need to realize we have to do maintenance all the time. Every bridge goes under maintenance. Every freeway goes under maintenance. So even when we are done here at the end of 18, what we're done with is the rebuilding part of it. We're going to be out here all the time doing maintenance because you have to prevent water from getting into the concrete so that it does last longer. So when we block lanes or we need to close off ramps, people think you just had this, you just had it under construction, not realizing how much maintenance it takes to keep this huge project, keep it in good shape.
And I think this brings up a good question. Okay, what precipitates, and precipitation's involved in that word, but what precipitates the rebuilding of a bridge and roads? What are the factors that you take into consideration? I'm thinking there's a handful of them, but what do you think about that destroys the surface that makes it need to be rebuilt, maybe so often or more often than we think it should be?
Well, obviously, road salt to prevent icing causes the concrete to deteriorate. The traffic loading and the freeze-thaw cycles are really what work on concrete to cause it to crack.
We have the worst freeze-thaw cycle of any state in the country, from what I understand. Is that right?
Well, it's actually, you're true, the cycles, the warming, the freezing, the amount of cycles, somewhere like in Alaska where it gets cold and stays cold, is easier on the road than here with all of the warming and then the freezing.
You can see the difference just driving south into Ohio, the difference between what the lakes do here to the thaw-freeze cycle compared to going farther south. That's amazing.
There's one other thing, though, on that. Ohio spends $1 billion more a year, $1 billion more a year on its roads than we do here in Michigan. So there's other factors besides just that.
Because of the tolls, Diane?
Because of tolls, and I'm not sure whether or not it's a tax thing, but I know tolls are one thing that we don't have here in Michigan, but they do have a lot more money on their roads.
Would we ever go to, we got a question coming up, but would we ever go to tolls in this state, you think?
That would be up to the legislature. That's who determines that kind of thing. So I would not have an answer for that.
But that sounds like it would make a difference. That would give you the funds to maybe rebuild the roads more frequently, more if it's necessary to do it, and keep them in better maintenance throughout the cycle. Is that correct? Would that help?
Money is a big issue, Dennis. So more money would give us more money to do more work.
However that funding comes.
I think somebody once told me, remember, Dennis, it's not the money, it's the amount, right? Okay, we had a question.
It's a very busy road, so how many drivers are affected here, like monthly or yearly?
No.
Over 100,000 a day, 11.5% are trucks. So it is that kind of traffic stream that we're impacting every day.
Okay. Oh, sure. George had asked, how many vehicles travel this bridge, this section of I-75, and we've got a lot of different freeways around the Detroit area. This one is, you say, is about 100,000. Compare that, let's say, to 696 and 275. How many cars are on those two roads compared to, let's say, the Fisher Freeway, I-75?
I don't have the numbers, but I mean, those are busy freeways too. So it's probably in the same ballpark, maybe a little bit less, but the busy freeways carry those kinds of numbers.
You're probably catching more trucks on this road, right, than you are catching on some of the other roads.
That's a big difference, particularly when you look about the movement to the Ambassador Bridge. And so this road is very heavily trafficked by trucks, where some of the others maybe not so much.
And we have the industry here in Detroit that we wouldn't have necessarily in Oakland County, the same kind of quantities. And one thing, and I do think our 275 was roughly close to 75 to 100,000. 696, we're looking at some of the major work we're going to be doing there, and I think I've heard numbers between 100 and 150,000. And people need to realize that not the same quantity starts at one end to the other, and the times of day are also different when it comes to traffic. But maybe the question might have been in the sense of how many people are affected by the closure. With southbound closed, we're taking approximately half of that. So at least probably 50,000 drivers a day are having to be detoured, which is a tremendous inconvenience for them.
What is the detour, Diane?
The detour, the official detour is 75 south. We want you to take I-96 as you're coming into this interchange area. You go west on 96. We want the traffic to go all the way out to 275, especially the truck traffic. We realize and acknowledge fully that a lot of people don't do that. Some will take 94, get off a Telegraph. We have heavier traffic than that. But they need to realize when we plan our detour routes, we have to accommodate the potential for 50,000 more vehicles to be on that road. Local roads aren't designed to handle that. 94 Telegraph, that interchange isn't designed to handle an additional 50,000 vehicles. You really need to keep that traffic freeway to freeway.
And you have to put them on your routes, right? You can't put them on the local routes because then there are other factors too you have to take into consideration.
Right, and MDOT roads are the I, M, and US roads only. So I-75, M10, US 24 Telegraph. But also the idea of local roads aren't designed to handle an additional 50,000. But as long as a vehicle is legally allowed on the road, they can drive any road they want. So we can't force commuters who go into neighborhoods or onto local streets. Unfortunately, MDOT can't do anything about that.
Another question. Go ahead.
About how cold is it out here right now?
Oh,
How are we feeling?
yeah. How cold is it now? And with that in mind, Bill and Diane answer this too. With that in mind, it's cold right now. It's a year-round. Can they work right through the wintertime on this project? Can they do a lot of the work? I know something they can't do, but what can they do now?
Demolition is crushing up the old concrete and hauling it away, so you can do that in the winter. When it comes to weather-sensitive items such as concrete, you don't want the water to freeze, so generally the slab concrete is done in the warmer weather.
You have to have what's the temperature? Is it 50 degrees, 55 for slab concrete?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you can't have the water freeze in the concrete. There are winter protection with blankets, but it's more expensive, so it's really generally limited to the warmer weather.
Now, go ahead, Diane.
One thing on that he mentioned, the idea of the water and the temperature, that's why even they pour concrete at night, because of the weather needs to be cooler. Right, Bill, that it can't be too hot for evaporation?
That's in the heat of the summer when the steel actually causes the water to evaporate from the concrete can crack prematurely. So in the warmer weather, we actually are trying to keep it cool, and then we put a plastic covering over the top of the concrete to keep the moisture in and allow it to moisture cure.
No, another question. Go ahead.
Brian Hayes again. How long will it be until southbound traffic travels across the property?
Okay, Brian Hayes is asking how long will it be before actually southbound I-75 traffic will be back on southbound I-75?
Well, the contractor, I think, is moving along at a pretty good clip. But for all practical purposes, they have until this time next year to get it back onto the respective roadways.
But we did talk off mic, off camera, that there is incentive on this project. So you think maybe if the weather is good, things go well, and everything pours properly and sets properly, it may be sooner.
Are you trying to pin me down there, Dennis?
I'm sorry about that.
Wait, a lot of things can happen in a year.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing very well. So let's say that's a possibility, but the schedule is the schedule, and they have till this time next year.
We'll come back next year at this time and watch the traffic on the road. Okay. All right. Now.
This setup
until that time. Okay, so you stay on that detour, West 96, out to 275 and 275 south to get back to I-75.
And they're going to be driving in this opposite traffic shift until the end of next year.
On some beautiful concrete. As we drove up, it looked fantastic, as a matter of fact. Now, stay with us, Bill, because we want to talk about two quick projects. The flex route of 23, that sounds like we're leaning toward early part of maybe next week, but let's back up from that. Something's coming up this weekend that you have to do on the Southfield. Tell me what's going on the Southfield.
On the Southfield Freeway, that's M39 near I-96, just north of 96. We have two pedestrian bridges that are very old. They're not used. It's not safe anymore to have them up. So this weekend, we are closing the Southfield Freeway between 96 just north of Grand River before traffic can get back on northbound, and southbound has to get off because we need to demo those bridges, bring them down. And the pedestrian bridges, the whole point is that you walk over the freeway. So it's also over the service drives as well. So the service drives and 39, the freeway, are closed Northbound at 96, southbound, we want you to get off near 8 Mile because then you can use 8 Mile to go west to Telegraph.
What's the north-south detour?
The northbound side, you get right onto 96. You can then go east or west. If you go west, you can connect with Telegraph, take that north, get back on an 8 Mile. Southbound, you technically don't have to get off until Grand River, but there's no good detour at Grand River because that's like an angle, northwest, southeast type of route. And if you're trying to go south, a better bet would be to get off at 8 Mile.
Well, and a lot of times when you do the demolition on these, you guys get done sooner than, let's say, Monday morning at 5 o'clock. I mean, in fact, it's like marvelous sometimes. You're done a day sooner. It just depends, right, on the contractor and their ability to get in and do this.
Yeah, and how much concrete there is. The pedestrian bridges are not all that wide, so they should go down in a hurry.
Okay, very good. So we've got the Southfield now. Anything else you want to add about that? It starts tonight, 9 o'clock, I think, right? And
it does start tonight, and again, pulling it down is the easy part. But then they also have to make sure and clean up, any of the messes. Should there be any issues with it, we try to be cognizant of the neighborhoods nearby, so we try not to be noisy at night, that kind of thing. And you want to under-promise and over-deliver. So if we get done early, that's awesome. But if we tell people we're going to be done Sunday morning and something happens, we can't get done till Monday morning, we've just set everything up for disappointment.
That sounds like that's common sense. Good idea. Now, I'm getting a real kick out of this US 23 project. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is like the roundabout. How do I get around these roundabouts?" This new flex route it's a great idea. What was the idea behind it? When do you think it's going to be done? What's your thoughts?
Well, the flex route is something that was looked into. It's a first in the state because we don't have the ability to, and we don't have the funding, and we don't have the room and the time to wait for what might be needed to actually make that a wider freeway. So by bringing in this flex route, it'll allow the flexibility to allow more capacity at certain times of the day so that we can help get that large volume of traffic trying to go northbound in the afternoon and come southbound in the morning.
Well, at 23, too, there really are no good alternates there, are there? I mean, Whitmore Lake Road, how are you going to be on that road? There's not going to put too many cars and trucks on there. You probably can't get trucks on there. But there's no detour that works around a 23 closure.
That was all out in the country, that was out in all the lakes, and you really only have that one major north-south route, and because our community has grown so much out in that direction, that really we think this is going to be the best way to try to handle that, because if we did try to widen the freeway, you have to go through a lot more of the DEQ type of things to make sure that it's safe for the area, that we don't impede on it, and any natural waterway type things, and the kind of money that it would take to make a full lane that could be used all the time instead of just the shoulders being used temporarily, a lot more money and time that we can't wait for.
I think they were talking at one time, weren't you guys talking about at least investigated the possibility of putting a rail down the middle of the 23, right, or paralleling 23?
That too. I don't know where that is right now, so we're focused just on the road, and so the shoulder is converted to a driving lane at certain times.
Now, what happens? How do you know when you're supposed to go on the shoulder, Bill?
There's an overhead sign with either a green arrow or a red X. And
just pay attention to the red X's and the green arrows. Are there message signs on there, too, to tell you that we had an accident up ahead, we're going to be putting you in this lane? Is that what happens here?
We will have the dynamic message signs over the roadway that will let drivers know what's going on, and we will have people on camera watching the roads to know when something is safe to open or when it has to be closed. We also have our freeway courtesy patrol drivers who are going to be in the area, and we'll make sure that they go through first to make sure nobody's broken down, something like that. We're still in the testing phase of that right now, and drivers can find out how to drive that if they go to the website flexroute23.com, flexroute23.com. And on Monday, we are having a kind of a media day to kind of kick off the announcement of it. We're still in the testing phase, so we don't expect that it's going to start on Monday, but we are in the testing phase that we hope pretty soon we're going to be able to start using it.
You have to also be able to, I'm thinking you have to be able to communicate between all the local police agencies, all the fire departments, the Washtenaw County Sheriff, right, the Livingston County Sheriff, state police, all have to be on the same page when you decide to do this, I'm thinking, right?
This is a major thing, the first we've ever had in the state, so there does need to be a lot of coordination, very similar to our Rouge Bridge in the sense of how many different parties are going to be affected by this. So, again, it's still in the... That's why the hard hats are to keep the head from whatever.
Any other comments or things that you can add that we would like our viewers, our listeners to know about upcoming projects? Anything else that you could add? Really nice of you guys to be here. Diane Cross and Bill Erban, thank you so much to do that. But anything else that we could add, good tips that people should know about driving-wise?
Just drive safely, watch for the construction workers, and keep focused on the road.
What's the speed in the construction zones now? Is it 60 still, or we?
Well, different zones are signed for different speeds. So we have 60 out here.
I remember a long time ago too. They did a study of even lengthy construction zones. Even when you're down to 60 or 55 for that short period of time, you're not changing the length of your commute much more than a few minutes by slowing down. But people think that's not going to happen. It's going to slow them down so much they're never going to make it to the airport, or they're not going to make it to work.
That perception, that idea, again, isn't that funny? That's the lens we look through everything through, is how we perceive a situation. I would like to say, if people would realize maybe just some of our conversation today, how much thought we really do put into how drivers are affected. It's the safety, again, of the workers and drivers. We want everyone home every night. And so we're looking at how to make it the safest possible, the best use of taxpayer dollars to fit the need of what we can do in the time frame to do it, that we really do give this stuff a lot of thought.
Thank you for inviting us here. Diane Cross, Bill Erban from the Michigan Department of Transportation. Thanks for looking in on our Facebook time today with WWJ. We really enjoy this. We thank you for your questions. Maybe we can all just kind of step out of the way and look at the beautiful downtown Detroit in the distance. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I could probably have Diane and Bill do this, too. Let's start over here to our right, okay? This is the Rouge River right here. Comes in off of Detroit. Yeah, let's do it. I am too. For all those years of flying, I still am. Diane and Bill can come on over here as well. This is the Rouge River right here. From the Detroit River over there, we can see where the tall stacks are over there. That's at the edge of the Zug Islands to the left. That's where the new bridge is going to go, right? When the Gordie Howe Bridge goes in, it's going to go right over here to our left. So you look in the distance, and you come around here. These are all different. This is a lot of industry down here for years. The refineries across the freeway will show you that. But this is the Rouge River. It goes to the Ford Motor Company plant, and the ore carriers will come in here on this river right here. This is neat to watch, and they have to negotiate the turns coming in here as well. We've got the lift bridges here too. There's one here at Jefferson. There's one at Dearborn, 4th Street near Dearborn Street, and then there's one at Dix, right? Dix.
Jefferson. There are 2 rail bridges, and then there's one to Zug Island.
So you have to coordinate that as they come down and come out, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's operators to the bridge, and it's all a synchronized operation where they all come up as the freighters come in.
Can a 1,000-footer come down here? Or is it can they not make it down this river?
I thought it was 800 foot. I heard that somewhere along the way.
What is that in the Edmund Fitzgerald? Well, there's a lift bridge coming up right there. There's the isn't that something? Isn't that ever great? So there must be. Is there something coming underneath? You think? Coming. So that's referred to as downbound, right? I think when you have something coming, yeah. The Free Press or the News for years used to always list those downbound and upbound ships coming down the river. That's pretty neat to watch. Yeah. Be careful, Bill. Can you see if there's anything coming?
We've seen tugboats go through here. We've got our 4th Street Bridge, the Bascule Bridge, which is where that heavy weight comes all the way up. That's what
Is that what that
is?
is?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
That's what the train is. It's a bascule. So all the weight is on the end, and it tips back and brings up the whole thing. Same thing as our 4th Street Bridge that is a bascule. And people need to realize ships and trains, they supersede traffic all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Traffic has to wait for ships and trains to come through.
So, Bill, do you see anything at all coming? Can you tell? Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll continue the tour. So you're looking at the other side of the Fisher Freeway, I-75. Fisher's named after the famous family that did.
Building, that's right. Was it five Fisher brothers, I think?
Yep. They were part of the General Motors Corporation, right? They helped build.
Eventually, they started as the carriage building company, the Fisher Carriage. I was tour guide at Greenfield Village, and then later bought by GM. But that's one of the many things. You can see the Michigan train station down here. To the left, our Fisher building with the green top. We've got the Penobscot and the Guardian building and the Renaissance Center, and it's just a spectacular view. How lucky are we that we get to have this?
This is a wonderful view. Was that a good enough tour for you? All right, very good. Bring Bill back in here. And Diane Cross, thank you very much. Bill Erban, thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it. You guys stay safe up here. Thank you for the effort that you're making. Thank you for looking in and the questions that you gave us today. Continue to do so. We'll be back next week. You're updated now on what's going on I-75, on US 23. Watch for that maybe next week sometime. And, of course, the Southfield Freeway closed this coming weekend. Dennis Neubacher with Diane Cross, Bill Erban from the Michigan Department of Transportation. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. All right. Sounds good. Okay, yep. Be careful. Be careful, George.
I don't want to be the first accident.